Today, we are diving into a story that is, honestly, it's just absolutely breathtaking. It's a story all about survival, intense persistence, and what happens when you are pushed right to the absolute brink. We're going to follow a farmer named Ethan through a devastating drought, and we'll explore that agonizingly thin line between utter failure and absolute triumph.
So, let me ask you something. Have you ever been so incredibly close to success that you could practically reach out and touch it, but you just gave up anyway? It's kind of a haunting thought, right? That feeling of pure exhaustion just completely overpowering your ambition. Now for Ethan, this wasn't just some metaphor about a career goal or a side project. This was literally a matter of life and death. He was on the verge of abandoning the very thing that would save his dying farm, his starving kids, and an entire village. And to truly understand why he reached that breaking point, well, we have to understand the stakes. 3, that is the number of long, agonizing years this village went without a single solitary drop of rain. I mean, just picture waking up every single morning for 3 whole years and watching everything you love slowly wither away. The soil on Ethan's land had turned this cracked gray color. It literally looked like broken glass. The crops were entirely wiped out, and the animals, they were reduced to basically bones and dust. The desperation in the air was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and it was pushing everyone to their breaking point.
And look, this wasn't just a mild, dry spell, okay? The actual fabric of society in this village was totally collapsing. We're talking 50 families fighting over a single bucket of dirty water from a well that was basically empty. Neighbors who used to literally share meals together were suddenly throwing punches over a half-filled cup. People were guarding moisture like it was gold. And amidst all this unbelievable chaos, Ethan had to face the absolute most heartbreaking daily ritual. His little girl asking him every day, "Papa, when will we have water?" And he had no answer for her. His wife was practically begging him to just pack up, move to the city, and surrender. But Ethan? He couldn't stomach teaching his kids that giving up was the answer. So he made a choice that everyone in the village called completely crazy.
He decided he was going to dig his own well. His wife cried. His brother literally laughed in his face. The village elders were shaking their heads, constantly reminding him of all the other guys who had tried the exact same thing and failed. But Ethan just completely tuned out the mockery. He grabs his shovel, walks out to the edge of his barren land, and just drives the blade right into the earth. Scrape, lift, throw. That rhythm basically became his entire existence. He dug through blistering heat. Scrape, lift, throw. His hands started to blister, the blisters popped, they bled, so he just wrapped them in dirty rags and kept right on digging.
Now, to keep from completely losing his mind down in that dark hole, Ethan comes up with a system. He ties a knot in a rope every single time he digs down another foot. It was his way of measuring progress, proving to himself he wasn't just wasting his life. But as you can imagine, the deeper he went, the more isolating it got. By the time he hit 10 feet down, the walls of earth were way higher than his head. He literally had to use the rope just to climb in and out. The sun became this tiny little circle of light way, way up above him. Imagine doing that for 10 whole weeks. His own brother comes to the edge of the hole begging him to stop. But Ethan just kept counting the knots on his rope. 22. 22 knots. That is 22 feet straight down into this dry, totally unforgiving earth. 10 weeks of bleeding hands, screaming muscles, and basically shattered hope. By this point, even his own kids had stopped asking about the well. They'd learned not to hope anymore. And honestly, for Ethan, that hurt infinitely more than any of the physical pain. Sitting at the edge of that dark hole one night, with his hands just shaking uncontrollably, the doubt finally crept in and consumed him. He whispers to the empty air, "What if they're right? What if I'm just a fool?" And right there, he makes a super heavy decision. The next morning would be his very last day. One last try, and then he'd fill the hole in and admit defeat.
So he climbs down the next morning. 3 hours pass, then 6. By noon, his shovel hits something incredibly, stubbornly hard. He tries to drive the blade through it. Nothing. It barely leaves a scratch. He strikes it again, and on the 4th strike, crack. This sharp sound just echoes in the hole, honestly sounding like a bone snapping. The wooden handle of his shovel split right down the middle. It was completely, entirely useless. And in that exact moment, something inside Ethan broke too. He throws the ruined shovel against the dirt wall and just lets out this scream of pure, unfiltered agony. He sits down in the dust, buries his face in his bleeding hands, and just cries. I am done, he thought. The nightmare was over. All he had to do was climb out and never look back.
But right as he's sitting there in the absolute depths of his despair, this calm voice just sort of floats down from the bright sky above. "Giving up, are you?"
Ethan looks up and he sees this stranger silhouetted against the sun, wearing a heavy pack of tools. It was Ralph. Ralph was a traveling well digger, a guy who literally made his living doing exactly what Ethan was completely failing to do. Now Ralph doesn't even climb down. He just sits at the edge, dangles his legs over the side, and very calmly asks Ethan to send up a bucket of the dirt from the exact spot where the shovel just broke.
So Ethan sends the dirt up, Ralph catches the bucket, and does something kind of weird. He rubs the soil between his fingers. He smells it. He even touches it to his tongue. Then he looks down and says, "Do you know what this is, son? This is blue clay." Ralph goes on to explain that blue clay is hands down the absolute hardest layer of earth in the entire valley. Most people quit the very second they hit it because it genuinely feels exactly like striking solid iron. But there was a secret hidden inside that dirt.
Ralph tosses a handful of the dirt back down the hole and tells Ethan, "Just feel it." It was much colder than the dust above, and it was incredibly heavy. And this brilliantly illustrates the incredible secret about blue clay. It is not a wall, it is a door. That dense, heavy dirt meant water was actively trying to push its way through from underneath. The exact obstacle that broke Ethan's shovel and completely broke his spirit was actually the ultimate proof that he was standing right on top of his goal. See, Ethan had been fighting this clay with pure brute force, swinging wildly when his body was literally running on empty. But to break through the absolute hardest obstacles in life, you can't just keep attacking it the same way. You have to adapt. You have to shift from attacking the dirt to working with the clay. Slow, steady, and strategic. So Ralph lowers down a brand new, much heavier shovel and offers a completely different strategy.
Ralph gives him 3 very clear instructions. First, don't even try to dig up the whole floor. Just carve a super narrow 6-inch channel right in the dead center. Second, stop using your own exhausted muscles. Let the sheer weight of this new, solid shovel do the work for you. And third, commit to just 1 more hour. Now, Ralph couldn't 100% promise there was water below, but he made Ethan this unforgettable guarantee. He said, "If you quit right now, you will never know. And that not knowing is going to haunt you for the rest of your life." Spurred by this crazy mix of curiosity and just pure stubbornness, Ethan agrees. 1 more hour.
Ethan carefully positions that new shovel. And he doesn't swing with rage this time, he just methodically works the clay. He carves the channel. 10 minutes go by. 30 minutes. The clay is just absolutely relentless. But it keeps going. Then at the 50-minute mark, squelch. The sound completely changed. Ethan's heart basically skips a beat. He pulls the shovel back and the blade is covered in this shimmering dark mud. He strikes again. More wet gravel. Slowly, inch by agonizing inch, this tiny pool of water begins to seep in at the bottom of the hole. And from up above, Ralph calls out, "Stop digging! You broke the seal! Go home, get some sleep, and let the earth do the rest." The next morning, way before sunrise, Ethan runs back out to his well. His hands are literally shaking as he peers over the edge. And there, sitting at the bottom of his 22-foot hole, was 6 feet of crystal clear, freezing cold water. The aquifer had been feeding it all night long. Ethan lowers his bucket, pulls up a drink, and it is so cold it makes his teeth ache. Within hours, the entire village is gathered around. Women are filling up buckets, the old men are openly weeping, and the village elder declares it the absolute strongest, most reliable water source in the entire region. The village was completely saved. And Ralph, he just watched with a little smile, nodded, shouldered his pack, and walked away. But honestly, here's the absolute most staggering part of Ethan's whole journey. Think back to the moment when he broke his shovel, sat down in the dirt, and was completely 100% ready to surrender. He was only 4 inches away. 4 inches! Literally just the thickness of a man's hand. That was all that separated 22 feet of absolute agony from life-saving success. The very moment he was most ready to throw in the towel was the exact moment right before his massive breakthrough. Look, we all hit that layer of hard earth in our own lives, right? We all face that absolute exhaustion where we just want to chuck the shovel against the wall and walk away. But knowing Ethan's story, I've got to ask you, what is your blue clay? And what vital goal in your life are you currently just 4 inches away from achieving right now? Seriously, don't let the not knowing haunt you. Pick up the shovel, change your strategy, and give it just 1 more hour. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep digging, and I'll catch you next time.